I'm Donald Trump, so my fellow Nigerians, and to the world watching. Let me open with a statement that will make some people very uncomfortable. When court orders are ignored and a man is kept locked away, that is not justice. It is fear wearing the uniform of authority. What is really happening to Nnamdi Kanu has nothing to do with law and everything to do with control. His detention is a warning, not a verdict, a message sent to millions who dare to speak, organize, or demand fairness.
Hey you, yes you watching right now. Before you scroll, answer this honestly. Where are you watching from and what made you stop? This channel isn't here to waste your time. Every like tells the algorithm this conversation matters. Every comment keeps it alive. Every share decides how far it travels. If you're watching from Africa, Europe, America, or anywhere else, type it below. Let people see how global this moment is. Like this video. Share it with someone who thinks deeply.
I'm Elon Musk, Chief Executive Officer of Tesla. Finance doesn't lie, but governments often do. That's the controversial truth people hate to hear. Money flows towards stability, and right now, instability has a human face. Elon Musk here, from Tesla and SpaceX. When markets hesitate, it's not just about numbers, it's about signals. And one signal the world has been reading is Nnamdi Kanu. Think about what's really happening. This isn't just detention.
Let me say something that will make powerful people uneasy. When freedom begins to look like a balance sheet problem, the issue is no longer law, it is leverage. The meeting was quiet by design, the kind of conversation that happens when headlines have failed and back channels take over. Donald Trump and Elon Musk sat across from each other, not to talk about rockets, elections, or technology, but about a man whose continued detention has become a global symbol of unresolved conflict. Nnamdi Kanu, a Biafran and leader of the Indigenous People of Biafra, was the name neither of them needed to repeat out loud for long. Everyone in the room knew why they were there. What is really happening to Nnamdi Kanu is not as simple as supporters versus government, or security versus dissent. It is something more uncomfortable. His detention has evolved into a test of power, pride, and international perception. Over time, legal arguments have blurred into political calculations, and justice has become tangled with money, influence, and fear of precedent. The controversial truth is this: Kanu is no longer being held because of what he might do next, but because of what his release would represent. His freedom would signal that court orders matter. It would suggest that pressure from within and outside Nigeria can work. And for some decision makers, that signal feels dangerous. Trump approached the discussion the way he approaches most problems, bluntly and without ceremony. He did not pretend to be neutral. He framed the issue as leverage and outcomes. A man is in detention, courts have spoken, the world is watching. The longer this continues, the worse it looks. The question becomes how to move from stalemate to resolution without humiliating the people who feel they must appear strong. Elon Musk came at it from a different angle. He talked about systems, about how pressure builds when feedback loops are blocked, about how movements find funding when formal political routes are closed. He was less interested in ideology and more interested in mechanics. When people believe deeply in a cause, they organize. When they organize, they fund it. Trying to crush that process financially does not end it. It decentralizes it. Nnamdi Kanu is a Biafran. That identity is not a slogan. It carries history, memory, trauma, and a sense of unfinished business dating back decades. The Indigenous People of Biafra did not appear out of thin air. They emerged from long-standing grievances about marginalization, representation, and broken promises. Whether one agrees with their methods or not, their existence reflects a reality that cannot be legislated away. The conversation turned to finances not because money was the crime, but because money had become the excuse. Calls for funding from supporters, contributions from the diaspora, and financial networks built around advocacy had been framed as something sinister. Trump pushed back on that framing. Every political movement on earth raises funds. Governments raise taxes. Parties raise donations. Advocacy groups raise grants. Funding is not evidence of guilt. It is evidence of support. What troubled both men was how the financial narrative had been used to justify indefinite detention. Instead of a clear legal process, there was drift, delay, a sense that holding Kanu had become easier than resolving the underlying conflict. Musk noted that in systems theory, unresolved tension always finds an outlet. If it cannot express itself legally, it expresses itself socially. If not socially, digitally. If not digitally, unpredictably. What is really happening to Nnamdi Kanu is that he has become larger than the charges against him. His name triggers reactions far beyond the courtroom. For supporters, he represents dignity and self-determination. For opponents, he represents fragmentation and fear of national disintegration. For the state, he represents a problem that refusing to solve has somehow become policy. Trump was direct. Keeping a man indefinitely does not make a country stronger. It makes it look insecure. Ignoring court orders does not project authority. It signals internal weakness. Investors, allies, and observers notice these things. The idea of finances as a pathway to release was not about paying for freedom. is about removing the excuses, transparency, oversight, humanitarian framing. If the concern was funding, then expose it to daylight. If the concern was control, then admit it. But do not pretend the issue is law while quietly negotiating power. Musk talked about how digital platforms had amplified Kanu's voice, even in detention. Silence no longer works the way it used to. And ordinary citizens who understood that once court orders become optional, everyone becomes vulnerable. The meeting acknowledged an uncomfortable reality. Releasing Kanu would not end the Biafran question. It would begin a more honest phase of it. Dialogue instead of detention. Politics instead of prisons. The state could still argue against secession, against fragmentation, against restructuring, but it would do so on a field of ideas, not behind bars. Trump framed the moment as one of choice. Nigeria could be remembered as a nation that confronted its internal challenges with confidence, or as one that postponed them until they hardened. History rarely favors postponement. It charges interest. Musk emphasized that global perception matters more than ever. In a connected world, narratives travel faster than official statements. A detained leader with ignored court rulings becomes a symbol overnight. That symbol does not stay local. It spreads through diaspora networks, media platforms, and international institutions. What is really happening to Nnamdi Kanu is that his detention has outlived its original justification. It has become a holding pattern driven by fear of consequences rather than clarity of purpose, fear of protests, fear of political backlash, fear of appearing weak. But fear is not a strategy. It is a reaction. The financial angle returned again and again, not as a transaction, but as a mirror. Why had funding become such a focal point? Because it revealed scale. Supporters were not isolated. They were organized. They were willing to contribute resources. That level of commitment scared people who preferred to believe the movement was fringe. Nnamdi Kanu, as a Biafran leader, represented something deeply emotional. Identity, belonging, historical grievance. Those forces do not dissolve when a person is detained. They concentrate. The meeting did not end with a grand plan or public announcement. It ended with an understanding that continuing the current approach benefits no one in the long term. That release under law would reduce tension rather than inflame it. That engaging the issue openly would be less costly than managing endless fallout. Trump summed it up simply: you cannot jail an idea into submission. You can only negotiate with it, defeat it intellectually, or accommodate it politically. Anything else is temporary theater. Musk agreed, adding that systems under stress eventually fail at their weakest point. Ignoring legal rulings is one such weak